Hey, Countdown City Geeks, we're back, and this time we've got a writer who works in the Hollywood industry plus comics. Um, if you're a fan of Supernatural, if you're a fan of DC Comics, DC animation, you're gonna love this next guest that we've got. Meghan Fitzmartin has worked on these shows, comics. We're gonna find out about how she got in the industry, what drew her to become a writer. Um, but before we do that, let's give a shout out to our friends at Dragon's Lair Alamo Ranch. If you are a gamer of 40K, Magic, Pokemon, you want to go here. If you want comics, graphic novels, come talk to me, Hunter, Jerry, Joey. We can point you in the right directions for comics. And then also my buddy Nasser at Casa, November 15th at the Red Oak Ballroom in that it's going to be at the North Center. You're going to want to go. He's got two upcoming guests that he's going to be announcing that you're going to want to know. He hasn't announced them yet, but there's also independent writers, independent artists, legendary artists and writers. You're going to want to check it out. Go check the list out. But let's get Megan in the room. Hello, Megan.
Hello, thanks for having me.
No, thank you for taking the time. I be honest with you, you responded pretty quick, and I was kind of shocked. I was not prepared. Normally it'll take like a week before somebody gets to their email or check it, but you got back to me right away, and I was so stoked.
You would be surprised at how often I'm trying to avoid writing anything. Any sort of like pop up on my phone or something. I'm like, ooh, a distraction. Oh,
Okay,
fascinating. Tell me
I
about
have
that.
okay, I have to ask about that because I just had uh Ryan Parrott on, and
Yeah,
he mentioned the same.
I love Ryan.
You know Ryan?
I do. I just had dinner with him like 3 nights ago.
No freaking way.
Yeah, he's the
Oh,
best.
yeah, he's the coolest. And he said the same thing. He's like, I have writing, but if something comes up, even though I know this is coming up, I'd rather do this than that.
I remember hearing somebody talk about, I think it was Bradley Whitford or someone, or maybe Tony Schiff, talking about when he was working on West Wing, and he would be wanting to like work through a scene or talk through something, and he'd call like the director and he'd call the other actors, and all of them would like none of them would answer their phone because they're like busy. Like I'm working, and then he'd call Aaron Sorkin and he'd be like, immediately answer, first ring there, because he was like, I don't want to work, I don't want to write, absolutely not. What do you need? Anything? Anything? Can I help you with anything? And I felt so seen.
Well, I mean, being a writer is not easy. I wanted to write. I mean, I've always wanted to write something. I just don't know where to start. I've gotten a book, but a lot of people say, "Oh, I have an idea in my head." And every time I ask a writer or creator, they said you have to write it out and then worry about fixing it later. Is that the same thing that you think that how process should go?
It will never be as good as it is in your head. And as soon as you accept that, it's so much easier to write it down because you're like, all right, I really love this thing. And I'm sort of mourning the fact that it will never be as good as when I write it down. But at least if I write it down, it will be some version of what's in my head. So I sort of start immediately with a death of the perfection of the idea. And then I put it all down and I'm like, okay, well, I could work with this too. This is something as well.
Wow. Okay, now we jumped ahead there a little bit, but getting into at what age was it that you knew, hey, this is what I want to do? I want to become a writer. How old were you?
I was always writing. I was always writing stories. I remember I I don't know what possessed me to write this, but I remember once I was like maybe 10 and I wrote a story about um this was pre 2001, but I wrote a
Oh
story
wow.
about a like spy on an airplane who finds out that there are bombs on the plane by in pins. Like, I just remember, like, I'd researched or I looked up, like, where you could put, like, secret bombs. I was, like, 10 years old, and I was like, "Oh, you like, there are pin bombs or whatever," so I, like, put that in. I wrote the story out, and my mom gave that to my grandmother for a Christmas gift from me, and I don't know, I truly have no idea if she read it, but I remember being like, "Oh, this is a form of currency. Interesting. This is good to know," and I remember writing, like, real person fan fiction of my high school best friend for, like, whatever guy she was in like, having a crush on, and I was like, "Here you go. Here's your, like, Christmas gift. It's a real person fic of you and this guy." Um, but I never, like I knew that I was a writer, like, I knew in my spirit that I was like, "This is a I am a writer, I will always write." I didn't expect it to be my job, and it wasn't until in the middle of college, I went to school to be a youth pastor. My goal was and has been continuously to tell people that they are loved, um, but I realized halfway through my program that I wanted to do that through telling stories, and I realized that, like, that's actually what Jesus did, was that he told people that they were loved through stories, and I wanted to do the same thing, and so I finished my degree because I was like, "Well, I'm already here. I'm already, like, halfway in. This is ridiculous to not finish it." So my degree is still, like, in church ministries, which is a really fun thing to bring up to people. They're like, "Oh, so, like, what's your degree and what film major did you get?" And I was like, "I did it." Um, but yeah, I moved to LA, after I graduated and, figured it out.
So, what would you say your first, I guess, gig was that you got picked up for?
Interesting. I don't, well, define gig. What would you say? Because I think that, like, that could mean multiple things for me.
Well, because I guess, like, because normally what writers are doing, they're constantly writing
Mhm.
scripts and then they're pitching these scripts, and then normally the industries will pick them up and buy them. Is that something that happened with you, or how did yours go?
Sure, yeah. So I guess the question could be, like, what was the first thing that I got paid to write?
Yes, there you go.
Um, I 'cause I got, like I had industry gigs, which were separate from writing gigs, but they still helped me get my writing gigs because of what kind of gigs they were. Like, I originally started out I was a nanny when I first moved to LA because I didn't know anybody, and I knew how to I've watched kids my whole life, so I was like, "Well, I'll do that." So I was a nanny for the first 3 or 4 years,
Oh, wow.
and I was really grateful for it because I had never lived outside of Florida before. That's where I'm from. I I moved across the country. I didn't know anybody except for, like, my roommate that I moved with and my friend who moved up from San Diego that I was friends with in, like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know a lot of people, and
Wow.
so I was like, "Ah, fine, I'll take whatever job I'll get," and I learned, where to go to the grocery store, how horrible parking is here. Like, I learned all of these different lessons that I think were really crucial, and at the same time I was writing, but so much of that time I think was, like, building myself and, like, fortifying myself, and then I my first industry job was at a theatrical marketing company, so it was a company that made a lot of they're still around, they still exist. They made a lot of, like, behind the scenes documents and,
Oh,
a lot of, like they're called electronic press kits, so I worked that was my sort of film school. Like, I worked for, this amazing guy, his name is Sam Hurwitz, who, um, gave me space to learn the industry because I knew nothing.
wow.
Moved up there, but ultimately left because I couldn't write, and so the message that I had given myself was like, I gave up so much to move here and do this, like, I'm gonna write. So, I then went over, and ended up getting a job at Warner Brothers in their, um it's called TV estimating department, which is where, like, all of the budgets for their shows go through that. So, I essentially learned, like, the budget side of I was a PA, I was a, production assistant essentially for that office, but I learned
Wow.
how the budgets got done, and I learned where the money was, and I learned how it moves and who to talk to for certain money things, and that was
Wow.
really crucial in how I got my job over at Supernatural. But, while I was there, I was still writing, I was writing, I was writing. There was a thing that is still sort of required, but it's kind of a joke at this point. Spec scripts, which are I like to say professional fanfic, um, where basically you are proving that you can write in someone's voice. And so I had submitted an Aerospec script to Final Drafts competition in 2016, and my script won that category for it. So that was the first time that I'd ever gotten written for my writing was like essentially writing an Aerospec.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's freaking cool.
Yeah, I'm really proud of it. I I talked to Mark Guggenheim about it recently because I was like, because he was like, I had no idea. I was like, yeah, I, in the episode I was like, what if Professor Pig was like in Arrow, um, and that's horrible. Like that's just a horrible thing because I remember that comic being so horrible and existing in my spirit, and I was like, I have to write that. Like I have to figure that and see how like Oliver and Felicity deal with that. I'm really proud of it. I think it's genuinely. I had a good time with it.
Well, I got to interview Marv Wolfman, and yes,
Oh, Marv! Yay!
and that hasn't even dropped yet. That interview hasn't dropped yet, but
Okay. Okay.
getting to hear his, talk, well, because okay, knowing from writers,
Yeah.
I mean, he did Blade. I mean, Blade,
No, I
that,
mean Marv is. I've met Marv a couple times. Sorry, I was talking about Mark Guggenheim, but
oh
Marv
yeah,
Wolfman is amazing and wonderful. I've met him a couple times, and is just the sweetest man on the
yeah,
planet.
but without him, we wouldn't.
We wouldn't
I
have.
feel
Yeah,
exactly. We wouldn't have anything. I mean, he created so many great characters that
his mind, like truly his mind. I don't know. I don't. What went on in there?
yes, it's so crazy. But with the Arrowverse, we wouldn't have the Arrowverse, right? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Without
No, not at all.
Smallville, so without Smallville, I feel Blade is what broke the movie industry to get Spider-Man and X-Men.
Yeah, absolutely.
Smallville, I think, is what gave us Flash, the Arrowverse.
Yeah.
I feel without Smallville, we wouldn't have those shows.
100%. 100% Smallville was the forebearer for it to prove that it can run and can be good and can hit in a way because so many of these characters are perfect for television because they are just they are static characters that are constantly trying to grow and then things are happening around them and you want to see these characters in all of these different situations and circumstances. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
And that's crazy that you got to. I mean, that's so cool. Yeah, that and then like you mentioned, Supernatural. I mean, that
Yeah.
in itself, like, okay, people you don't know, you know, basically the main actors from Supernatural. One, of course, is from San Antonio.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Texas
and
boys.
yeah, Texas boys, and
Yeah.
then the other one, both of them now both live in Austin.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's so awesome that one of the characters, if you didn't know, Eccleston, was in Smallville and started from there, and then
I
transitioned.
knew him from Smallville, even though he'd been in soaps and things. I knew him from Smallville before he moved over to Supernatural. I remember seeing him on Smallville.
So I gotta ask now. This is, I mean, when you got the job to join Supernatural,
Yeah.
how was that? I mean, what was your reaction?
So I m- manic, sort of mild disbelief. It's really interesting because I knew, so this was in 2016. I got hired on the show originally as the showrunner's assistant because we were switching over showrunners essentially on Supernatural. And um, I had interviewed about a month before for a different job. And I got a phone call and they were like, I'm so sorry. Like, we can't do that for whatever political hire reasons. But there's this other job that we might potentially have. Would you be interested in it? And I was like, yeah, 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 man. Like, I appreciate you asking me, but the answer was yes. Um, but it was one of the last years I think where the last couple of years, but that we still had a legitimate pilot season because there were so many pilots that were up that season and I had like interviewed for a bunch of different assistant positions on a bunch of different shows. Um and so it was really like a gamble of like, all right, what's gonna go? What's gonna happen? Um and the reason why we had a showrunner move over was because Jeremy Carver, who had run the show after Sarah Gamble left, he ran the show from seasons 8 to end of season 11. He had a show on called Frequency that got picked up, and so he moved over to do that show. And so my boss, Andrew Dabb, who'd been on the show since season 4, moved into position as showrunner and needed an assistant. And one of the reasons why he Um, when we met, we got on, but I also came with this knowledge of how the Warner Brothers systems worked because I just came from working in the budget department, and like I knew a lot of the folks that were on the lot already, and so yeah, it was a really fortuitous sort of moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
And if people didn't know, which I didn't know until I started doing my research, I mean, you wrote on, you know, season 14, episode 15,
Yeah.
and season 15, episode 16.
Yeah.
Those two episodes were freaking cool. Like, okay, how did you come up with that episode for one first season
Yeah.
14, episode 15? Um, a Peace of Mind. I mean,
Yeah.
how did you come up with that?
So, yeah, so I eventually got staffed on the show. I was able to write for a couple episodes for it. Peace of Mind was a pitch that I had. The way that we would do pitches for the season is that we would come in sort of in batches, and I was told that I was going to come in and I was going to be able to pitch like three or four different ideas. And I was like, okay, let's go. What do I have? And I had a suspicion that it was going to be this one because I grew up in a town called Celebration, Florida, the town that Disney built, that is 100% based off of well, the town in this episode is absolutely based off of the town that I grew up in. And
Oh,
I was always so
wow.
fascinated in that town how like everyone sort of it does feel like this town sort of takes over your brain, and like you suddenly become these like cookie cutter like 1950s-esque versions of yourself. And I pitched it a bit like what if Supernatural did Pleasantville.
Wow.
And so yeah, so we played around with that, and that's ultimately how that episode came to be.
You bought it, Pleasantville. That's a great movie. I loved it.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's what the first thing that popped in my head when I was
yeah,
watching the episode. But if you're a TV buff and a TV junkie, when you love type of stuff, those type of movies or whatever, and you see another show have somewhat of similarity, an Easter egg kind of ish, kind of, to me, that's what I saw it as. It was a great show.
yeah,
It drew you in,
yeah.
and the story was great. The story that you portrayed from
Mhm.
that was great. And
Thank you.
we talked about this before we even started recording, that stories have a big impact on people
Mhm.
and how they affect people. And you mentioned that's why you really wanted to become a writer.
Yeah, when I was, like I said, going to school to be a youth pastor, the thing that really pushed me into that as a career possibility was that I just wanted to like work with kids. I would be a horrible teacher. I don't care enough about learning and education in that way to be a teacher. 10 out of 10 to all teachers. I know many a teacher. I love them very much. I would be the worst. Cuz I read I can't listen in a classroom. I was just the worst whenever it came to that. I would, like, not pay attention, and then I'd go home and I'd read the thing. So I knew that I was like, teaching's not for me. But I can, like I used to be, a youth leader at my church. I was a camp counselor. Like, I spent a lot of time with next generation kids, and I was like, I really want to continue that and give them this love because I have so much love for them, and I want them to know that like they are loved. I think that at the end of the day has always been my focal point and my guiding light in anything that I write, is that at the end of the day I want to make sure that people are loved and people know that they are loved. And the best way of doing that, and this is what I realized when I was going to university, the best way that that happens is through story. We don't really understand it, and it's really hard to to combine it and to bring it into our heads and like really sit with it and know it. But whenever we do whenever we sit with stories and whenever we hear a story, there's something that hits us in just a completely different way. And I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. I want to go into this particular field and let people know that they are loved. And if one person hears my stories or like consumes my pieces of media that I put out into the world and chooses to like continue to live throughout the day because of that, done. I have done the thing that I set out to do. Everything else is gravy. This is I don't do this for fame. I don't do this for accolades. I do it for money because I need to live. But like that, less to do with that and more I pursue it and I continuously pursue it because at the end of the day I believe that we are all deserving of love, and stories tell us that that is the way that we are loved. So that's what I do.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And that's why I love comics, because
Yeah.
you'll have stories that will help learn the younger generation, which that's what comics were catered to back in the day,
Yeah.
was the younger kids, to get them, give them inspiration, give them hope,
Give them
you know?
accessibility as well because, like, sometimes it's really difficult. I remember, I've also done let me sorry, I'm gonna
It's okay.
put this on focus. Um, I remember I know how, like, accessibility is so important. I remember for comics, I knew so many kids that, like, grew up having a really hard time reading or concentrating or things like that, and comics were the way in for a lot of people, and, like, that that's so important. We cannot ever lose sight of that. That's so important.
Yep, big time.
Yeah,
And that's what we need currently. I mean, yes, they're catering to an older generation as well, and that's one thing too. Like what Mark mentioned in the interview was that he talked about that when he created the Titans and he
yeah,
created Nightwing, he wanted them to grow along with the kid, with
yes,
the Titans,
yeah,
so that you as a kid were reading it, but you can also grow with them as
yeah,
they grow, and that was genius.
yeah.
And you know, that was one of the things about I liked about the Justice League crossover that you did.
Thank you, Ruby.
Yes, Ruby, but the story behind it was, I mean, yes, the universes are being pulled them in and stuff like that, but you're also teaching them to be a team and work
Yeah,
together and help each other, inspire each other.
yeah. So I go into everything that I write, including IP. So a lot of like, I've had the absolute honor of working with a lot of different properties that I didn't come up with, and I actually really enjoy it. And the thing that I always do when I come into those properties is to like come at it from the emotional storytelling standpoint of what emotion do I want to experience or explore with these characters. And for Ruby especially, I found that like all of them have really heavy backgrounds. All of them have really heavy backstories, both Ruby and the Justice League. Um, and I think that that really chimes with what a lot of younger generation is currently feeling as well, of just like being told that they're living through unprecedented event after unprecedented event, and like there are a lot of kids who are being told that like the world's not going to be around for them when they grow up. Like that's a lot of heavy stuff, not only on top of already difficult events. Like growing up is just a traumatic experience. Doesn't matter, you can have the best parents in the world, it's still really hard. And I wanted to do that with Justice League Meets Ruby, is to really hone in on like, yeah, life is hard, growing up is hard. How do we embrace being who we are and the teenagers that we are and a team together within that? Because I firmly believe that community is the only way that solves it. And that my themes of community come up in literally everything I write because I think we can't live without community.
No, it's true. I mean, okay, getting into it, Superboy, you
Yeah,
know, when he gets into that world, he's used to being in having these powers and everything, but then when he wakes up in the middle of a battle and he thinks, "Okay, I'm gonna do this," and then gets knocked down and has no power, and he's
yeah,
trying to figure out like what's wrong with me. That as a kid, I felt it makes a kid think like, "Hey, you know, well, I don't have this ability, but you know, it doesn't mean I'm not part of the team and I can't
yeah,
work with," you know what I mean? And I saw that in that automatically when I saw that. You
yeah.
know, it's I was just like, wow. The first, I mean, the first scene that's guys, spoilers. If you haven't watched it, go watch it.
I truly, it's a weird movie, and you absolutely understandable when people are like, "So why this?" I'm like, "I don't worry about that. Just enjoy it. You have a good time." Because I genuinely, I'm like, "It's just a fun movie. Like, it's a fun ass time."
Yeah, no, and it is. The animation was great. The
Yeah,
story. I mean, even Cyborg, where Cyborg felt like he couldn't fit in because he couldn't access the computers
yeah,
and do stuff. So
yeah.
he felt out of place because he's so used to, hey, I could connect to this computer and I could just take it over. I can figure out what's going on. That alone was like you could see it. And then not only Jessica with her anxiety,
One
that
of my favorite stories to tell was Jessica. I mean, I love Jessica. I think she's one of the coolest characters, and like, yeah, that everybody was willing to let me do that particular story with Jessica, and anxiety. Because I get anxiety, and so it was just a lot of me, especially because I wrote that during the pandemic, and
oh
so it
wow.
was a lot of like me channeling my own anxiety during the pandemic.
No, you did a great job with it because I mean, it made me think, it's true. But letting her knowing that there was someone there with her to help her through that. And
Yes.
now to me, I felt that was the message that was trying to come across is that you can do it together with
Yes.
help by
Yes.
letting people know you have that anxiety.
Yes, but yeah, you can do anything with help from the people in your life, like from asking for help from the people around you. That is, the joy of having a movie that has as many characters as it did. There were so many characters. There were so many characters for as short a movie as it had to be. Um, but the joy of that is to really emphasize the fact that like we all need to work together. We're in this together. We cannot get through the struggles of life without each other.
Okay, okay, not even that Bruce. That was
Yeah.
freaking awesome. I mean, we could keep on going, but even that, I didn't, I was just so stoked about the way Bruce he was like, he was enjoying that what he
Yeah.
had because
Yeah.
he never had abilities before. So he
Mhm.
was like taking it in and just absorbing it like a sponge. And I
Yeah.
was just kind of like, this is freaking cool because, and okay, I'm just geeking out, but no, everything that you did in this episode for people who did not watch this, if you
Thank
are
you.
an anime fan, the artwork is great.
Yeah.
You're going to love
Bruce
the
Lee
story.
absolutely killed it. Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much. I'm so proud of it, and, yeah, I think it's a really fun time.
Well, okay, getting back to how did you get the call to do this one?
Um, I got a call during the pandemic. I remember it was, like, January, either December or January of 2020, December of 2020 or January 2021, from Jim Krieg, who is lovely and wonderful and has worked a lot, on some very amazing, DC animated movies, and he was like, "Hey, I have this sort of weird thing come across my desk. Do you know anything about Ruby?" And at the time, I said, "Sure. Le give me 24 hours and I'll learn everything about Ruby." Um, I knew of Ruby, I had seen it around before, and it was one of those things that I knew that I would love, and I was like, I can't get into this yet because I it will consume all of me, and I just don't have the time for it, so I'm gonna wait." And then I got the call and they were like, "Well, yeah, like, learn about this." I was like, "Okay." And then now was the time to become the biggest fan of Ruby. So I dived in and I watched everything and I consumed every piece of content that I could, and loved it. I had such a wonderful time. It's such a lovely story about girlhood. It's such a lovely story about, like, friendships, but also fighting together and the struggles of being a teenager when you've got this like massive amount of responsibility on you. Season 3 ends with just season 3, I think especially, is just this really beautiful piece of as a season is just really gorgeous. So yeah, I came back and he was like, "Okay, did you find?" I was like, "Yes, I have a lot of thoughts now." Um, I got brought in to like essentially pitch on it, and I was like, "Cool. So there's only one way that you tell the first part of this movie." I don't even think I knew that there might be two movies at this point. I was like, if there was one movie, the only way of doing this is by uh bringing making the Justice League the same age as these teenage girls because one, otherwise it's weird, and two, it's just interesting. I love those stories. Um I loved Justice League, the cartoon growing up. Like it was so good, so good, so good. Some of the best writers are on it. Dwayne McDuffie, like dead, I'm dead. Just died. Um Loved this show. And one of the episodes that I really loved when it became Justice League Unlimited was an episode by Henry Gilroy, who is now a good friend of mine, but I didn't know him at the time.
Wow.
And he had written this episode where like the Green Lantern and Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman become 4-year-old or not 4-year-old, 8-year-olds.
Yes, that is so freaking cool.
So good! It's so good. I think about it all the time. I don't know I don't know what it is about it, but I think about it all the time, and I was like, "But what if we made them teenagers now?" Um, and sort of gave a rough pitch for my view of, but I just came in with a very strong perspective and a very strong, like, I know what this is. I know you guys don't know what this is because none of you know anything about this, but I know what this is.
Oh, wow. So that's where you got the inspiration, basically, to get them, make them into teen. Genius.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
genius.
I have told Henry, I think that was the first thing that we said to each other, but, like, I told Henry that, and then also in the DVDs for Justice League Meets Ruby, the episode is on like, one of the special bonus features is, like, you can also watch this episode of Justice League, and I think it's because I talked about it so much because I was like,
Oh,
this is what we're pulling from. We need to, like, recognize what has come before and recognize that this is a really good sort of inspiration for this.
wow. That is so awesome.
Thanks. I highly recommend go back and watch that episode tonight.
Justice League and Justice League Unlimited were such a great show. I mean, I was okay. I'm a 49-year-old who still watches cartoons and
Same.
reads his comics. I don't care what people think, but you know, they were such a great show to watch. I mean, I was watching it and every episode, I mean, even the episode where Batman, I think it was the Hush Gang and the little
Yes.
girl.
I
Oh,
Oh, no, that one of the I got chills just thinking of that moment. Yeah, where he with Ace and sits with Ace on the swings and, like,
oh
no,
man.
it everything about everything about it was, like, so traumatizing in the perfect way. Like, I TV just doesn't hit that same way as it did then because it was just so, like, I remember everything about Hawk Girl and Green Lantern made me feral, just purely feral. Um, everything about it. Every time they, like, looked at each other or they yelled at each other, I was like,
Yeah.
"I'm in love with their love. They know they're in love. I know they're in love." Uh, Star-Crossed, I think, ruined me. Like, I think I had to lay down for, like, 3 days because I was just like, "This is so much." I think it's where my love I have a joke with some folks from, like, the Supernatural fandom or whatever that, like, one of my favorite things is to make things sadder. Like, I just want everything to be sadder because I think it's just great, and I do think that a large part of that comes from Justice League.
No, Justice League guys, if you have not watched it, I recommend watching Justice League. It's on HBO Max. Go
Yep,
watch it.
yep.
I mean, Batman the animated series, as you can tell, my Harley Quinn, that's my
Oh,
Harley.
I
Ha-
saw it, I clocked it. I knew.
Bruce Timm is my white buffalo. If I could ever interview Bruce Timm
Yeah.
to thank him for creating Harley Quinn, I love her. I mean, my dog is named Harley, uh,
Yay.
and she's little Chihuahua.
Great,
But
perfect. Actually perfect.
and she's crazy too, just like Harley. But with
Yes.
Bruce Timm, I mean, I have prints, I have statues, I mean, it's just that story that he created about her.
Yeah,
Bruce Timm is and Dan Slott as well, writing as well, currently writing
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
They're genius.
yeah,
They're all geniuses. And
for sure.
but it helped give us people like you to
Listen, we're all I think this is the thing, we're all pulling from the things that we've consumed and come before us. Like, there is nothing that is we were talking a little bit about this beforehand, but I came to LA with a dream and a prayer. Like, I knew nobody. I didn't know how anybody went about writing for television or comics or anything. Like, I didn't have anybody. Um, so I all I had was a love of story and the stories that have come before. And I spent so much time watching those things, not just enjoying them, but asking myself, why do I enjoy them? Like, why do I, what is it that strikes me about them? Like being not critical, I guess is not the right word, but like being contemplative or being like having the critical thinking skills of the art that I'm consuming and going, oh, I really love that. I didn't like that. Why? Why? All across the board that I would ask myself all the time. I even like when I was an assistant on Supernatural, I'd seen all of the show up to that point. And so I was like, well, how can I learn as much as I can? And the answer was read all of the scripts. So I've read every episode of over 300 episodes of Supernatural. I've read every episode. Um, and it was
Wow.
a master's class in genre TV writing. Like it's some of the greatest genre TV writers have come through it, and um, I am always, I think that a lot of people really get hung up, and it feels impossible to do these things. And I understand that, but all it, I think that like it takes drive and it takes pushing, sure. It also just takes being curious and learning. It's being excited and learning and wanting to learn more.
That's it. Never stop learning.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what some of us get complacent
Yes.
and we're like, okay, we're comfortable, we're not gonna do anything. But I feel every day is a learning thing. We should never stop learning. And
Yeah.
we should take criticism and learn from people telling us, hey, that's not right.
Oh
People
yeah.
yeah.
I totally agree. I listen, I used to like to say that I have been canceled numerous times on the internet. I'm also a lady in genre spaces. Like, fine, whatever. I, I don't care. But I never write, and most of the people I know never write to Twitter or whatever social media. I don't write towards it. But I think that there is a real beauty in being able to filter and go, "Oh, okay, interesting. That character is not hitting the way that I thought that that character would hit." It's such a really great data point of like not taking it personally, but taking it from a space of or going, "Oh, you hate this character because of this reason. Good. That is hitting. That's what needs to be happening. I'm not going to change anything about this, but I'm pleased to see that like this is going the way that I want it to go. I'll I'm not changing anything about the way that I'm doing this, but I I genuinely believe that we should always be learning from the stories that have shaped us, but also from what what is current. Like what are people talking about? Both of my own things and also other things. Like I always try and get a pulse or get a sense of like where are people at with this? Where what are people feeling? Not taking it personally because I don't care, but taking the information that we can gather to continue to create a better story and know when something's not hitting. This is I think this is something that I miss so much about um shows like Supernatural that had a billion episodes a season. And you could start to, because the trains were running, you could really see sort of in real time if there was an actor that wasn't really hitting, if there was a storyline that people didn't really like. It was really useful. It was really helpful to sort of like coordinate and to sort of adjust and go, okay, that didn't really work. Fascinating. Or like, that maybe this take could have been done a different way. Fine. How can I take those lessons and apply them into the next thing that I do?
Yep. I agree with you. I mean, even with the supernatural, I mean, you've already heard the news, right? That Dynamite got the IP, and they're
I'm
gonna.
aware, yes.
I posted it as soon as I heard the news. I posted it on our comic book page
Yeah.
for the store. I told them, "Hey, Supernatural fans, if you're a fan, come pre-order your comic. It's taking place between season 1 and season 2. It's going to be interesting.
Uh-huh.
I'm really wanting to see what's going on
Uh-huh.
because you could fill in so many holes because with without the actors age wise, you can fill in. You could get the parents back, and we could see them. I understand they tried doing it with the TV show, but here you don't have a budget. You can write whatever you want and bring whatever characters you want because there's no budget on special effects and there's anything. So you can write whatever, and it could be perfect because you are not restricted on what you can tell.
Mhm.
And that's what I am looking forward
Cool. Good. I'm pleased.
to. And I'm just gonna have to ask because they stated the first couple episodes. Would if they were to reach out to you and ask you to write for the series, would you write an episode or a one shot?
Sure, if they asked. But as far as I know, they've not asked any of us because it's yeah, not there's a load of us that came from Supernatural that do comics. But I don't think they've talked to any of us. So sure, sure.
Wow. That would be awesome. I would think because that's one thing about comics is you can do one shots, you can do miniseries one through
Yeah,
five.
yeah.
You can do so many spin-off type stuff with the comics, and that's the part I love
Mhm.
about comics because And that was one of the things, like, we go Star Wars wise, there was a lot of people didn't read any of the Star Wars Rebel comics. Nobody
Yeah,
watched the Star Wars animation show, but because it was a cartoon, it was for kids. I'm not going to watch that. They missed out on a lot of action. They missed out on a lot of story,
yeah,
even in the comic form. Because I was talking to Rodney Barnes, and we talked about the stories that he felt like he created a new Jedi, an Inquisitor, that
right,
is now canon.
right.
So there's so much opportunity for the comic book writers to fill in holes that on other adventures that were going on in that timeline in the movie or the TV show that we don't know, because you can remember there's so many days and so many hours in a day that can happen.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's what I really like about comics is that, like, it is sort of timeless. Like, I first got into comics, with Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four was, like, the first one that I found myself. It was
Oh,
Mark Waid's run, with
Mark
my
Waid
friend.
is genius.
I know. I truly agree. I think he is absolutely one of the smartest men on the planet. Um, and I it was after Spider-Man 2, my dad was like, "Do you wanna, like, read comics?" Because he loved comics growing up, and he was very, like, supportive of me, like, he liked that I also liked the things. He was always very good about, like, there was never any sort of, like, "You can't read comics, you're a girl." He was always very much like, "Obviously, you will want to read comics because I love comics," but it was very much like, "Okay, do you wanna go and get to comics from a comic book store?" And I was like, "Yes." Um, and the first one that I found that I picked up myself was Fantastic Four, and that feeling of just I couldn't get enough of it. I was so enthralled with the whole thing, and what I loved about it was that, like, it sort of doesn't matter when it takes place. That's not necessary to the story itself, because every single one sort of takes place in their own specific time and period, and so you can just plant yourself into this particular moment in the universe and time, and engage with those characters in that moment, and it's really, really lovely.
No, it is. Which, you talking about time and doesn't take place. I got to bring this up now. Justice League Society World War II. How,
Yeah.
how did you come up with that story? Like, when I watched it, okay, don't get me wrong. I don't know about something about, I love about period pieces.
Yeah.
Captain America, World War II. It's just
Oh, yeah,
something about,
for sure.
yeah, like, so when you did this one, how did you come up with the storyline? Tell fans, because it was a great story, great everything
Thank
about it.
you.
Um, but yes, tell us,
I
please.
appreciate it. Yeah, no, that was really fun. I came on board Jeremy Adams, also from Supernatural, also does comics. Jeremy Adams wrote, I think Jeremy and Jim Craig wrote one of the best episodes of Supernatural, which is our Scooby Natural episode.
That, yes,
It's
okay.
truly, like, if you, the listener, have never watched an episode of Supernatural and you're like, "I don't know if I'll ever get into this," watch this one. You don't need to know anything. You don't need to know anything, and you just go in, and it's such a baller, silly time. It's so good. And
Yeah.
Jeremy wrote that, and I met him that way, and, I reached out to him afterwards and be like, "I really liked this episode. Can we be friends?" Um and we talked a little bit more, and he knew that I liked animation, and he knew that I liked comics, and so he was working on the DC Superhero Girls for the YouTube shorts, and so he was like, "Do you
Oh
wanna write a
yeah.
couple episodes of that?" I was like, "Yes. Yes, I do wanna write a couple episodes of that," because that was, I think, would have been the second thing that I had gotten paid to write would have been that, and so Jeremy Adams gave me my, like, second paid job.
Wow.
Um and, then that was fun, and we had a good time on it, and then I got called in, and he was like, "I've gotta write this movie. I'd love to co-write it with you." Um, 'cause it was a large part of Wonder Woman's story and things like that, and I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so we broke it together with Jim Krieg. We knew I can say it now because it's out. We knew that it was going to sort of, like, slowly set up the Infinite Crisis stuff. Um, so that had been in plan since, like, for forever, basically. And so we were like, "Okay, cool. So knowing these things that we need to use, this is the story that we can create." And so, yeah, we came together, and I wrote half of it, he wrote half of it, and
Wow.
yeah, yeah, really proud of it. It's a really fun, yeah, it's another one of those movies. We wrote it before the pandemic, but then it came out during the pandemic, and it was just very, like, it was a very weird experience for me because I was like, "This is my first movie," and it's all sort of in pandemic Zoom time, so okay.
Oh no, it was gorgeous. I mean, Flash, Wonder
Oh,
Woman. I
thank
mean,
you.
and again, thanks to Marv giving us the multiverse. With
Pretty
with him,
ridiculous, yeah.
he what he talks about in our interview that how he came up with it, and I'm just mind blown where he was like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
was just doing this, and I just came up with it." I'm like, I just shook my head like, "What?"
Genuinely, I don't understand his brain. Like, it is, for science. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so big brain. It's so big brain. How he
Yeah,
came up with all of the stuff that, like, just was foundational for so many of those characters is just
yeah.
wild.
Now we talked about that, and getting back to the comic that we're here for. It's a super is it
Alright, do
California? The way I can't do it, I'm gonna butcher it. Can you do it?
it. California Love.
Yes, California. I see, I'm messing up, but
My
yes.
my favorite has been with this comic. I love this comic. I think the pun is very funny. I have watched everyone panic, the panic in their eyes as soon as they realize that they don't know how to say it. Like, we did a signing at my local comic book store, and everyone being like, "I would like to get this signed." And I was like, "Yeah, fair."
I'm not the only one. Even my buddy at the store, same thing. He's like, "Kala." I'm like, yeah, because it's kind of it's a tongue twister
It's
to
weirdly, you
say.
don't think so, because it makes sense when you read it. Like, your brain is totally like, "Yeah, no, I know what that is. That's fine." And then your mouth opens and you're like, "Oh, I'm in trouble."
Yes, that okay. That one has a number of different stories.
Yes.
Since it's out now, can you tell us how you came up with that story?
Yeah, for sure. So Andrew Marino was one of the editors on it. Had he's a buddy of mine that lives nearby, and so I had reached out to him to chat about, I think it might have been the LA fires or something like that. Just checking in and whatever. And he was saying like, "Oh, by the way, we think we might have something like this." I was like, "Oh, cool." And he was like, "Would you want to write a Lois story?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'll write a Lois story." And I love when editors do that, specifically because it's not, I love Lois, but I don't know that I ever would usually pitch on Lois. Like, she's not somebody that I I would necessarily, like, go towards or gravitate towards. Generally, I tend to go towards the, like, lesser known comics because I generally think everyone else is, like, busy, so I'm like, "Probably not Lois. I'll take one of these other ones." But he was like, "Do you wanna pitch on Lois?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I really loved it because it really forced me to sit down with the idea of, what do I wanna say with Lois? What do I think is important? And what I like to do, especially with comics, is to sort of sit with the character, because so much of this is character focused. I like to sit with the character to be like, "What do you find important? What's important to you right now?" Um And surprise of all surprises, it's journalism. And so, um, yeah, I had been having a conversation with somebody about journalism, and I'd been seeing a lot of stuff. My father-in-law was a journalist, and it's very near and dear, and how important journalism is, and this thing that Lois Lane does is so important. I mean, she's so good at it, and I I love podcasting, and I think some podcasting can absolutely be good journalism, but there are a lot of bad authors out there. Like, there's a lot of bad faith stuff going on because there's just no regulation, and I'm really fascinated about it, and I really think that that's something that we should be talking more about is the, like, how a lot of these in the story specifically, I talk a little bit about how some of these true crime podcasts are acting as if they are investigation newsy podcasts, but They are not held by any sort of journalistic integrity or journalistic rules, and we don't even really know what journalistic rules are anymore. Like, I remember, I went to a movie screening for She Says, which is the Harvey Weinstein reporting story that
Oh
got
yeah, yeah.
um, and they had an interview with the writer for it, and she was talking about how when she talked to the journalists about making the movie, she would ask them questions, and they were so keen on being like, "It was not our job to have an editorialized opinion. That is not who we are. That is not what our job is as journalists. We are there to express the information as it is. There is nothing beyond that. There is no editorializing. I am not here to tell you my personal feelings on this." And that's always sat with me. That's always struck with me because I didn't grow up as a journalist and I didn't go to school for it. And so we see so many of these like bad faith arguments in all of these different spaces. We see so many like bad actors in these spaces. And so I really wanted Lois to have a sort of confrontation with that of like, hey, you're bad at my job.
That no, you, and that was the thing that blew my mind
Mm,
because as I'm reading it, we have influencers out there who feel they can tell stories and they can
mhm.
twist, false narratives for clickbait.
Yes.
And that was the first thing that popped in my head when I was reading this. And I was like, there's so many people out there like this. And
Yeah.
and that's why I was like, wow. Like I said, when I read it, mine was blown. And that's why I was like, and that's that out of the ones that I was reading, that was the one that really drew me because I was like,
Oh, thank you.
podcasting has taken a new level
Yeah.
where it can go the right way or the wrong way. And it's
Mhm.
depending on who are the people behind it. And
Yeah.
that's why I was like, this is gold. And I was like, I got to figure out this person who's writing this behind their mind. Like you said, Marv, like
Yeah.
what's in that head of yours?
What's in that head?
And that's why I wanted to ask you because even when I asked Cullen Bunn about
Yes.
like what's in his head, he's like,
Yeah.
you don't want to know what's in my head.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, because the stuff he comes up with. But the same thing, like, okay, every writer has a way they write. Like they keep their pad with them. If they have a dream, they wake up, they write down what they got in their dreams, just because they don't want to lose or what they had pop
Yeah.
in their head. What is your is that your method? What is your method on when you write? Is it something like that, or
I wish it were more streamlined like that. Like, I think the most chaotic thing about me is my notes app on my phone/computer. Insane, insane. I truly I because I would love to have a dedicated notepad, I would lose that notepad, or I won't have it with me, like, I just won't. I go between countries as well, I go between LA and London quite often, and so, like, if I don't have it with me, then I'm screwed. So, um, so I wish I were more tactile and analog in this way. I have become more reliant on the notes app on my phone and my computer. Um, but the truth is, those I generally tend to put snippets in. So like the notes app is where I keep all of the like it would be once again, it would be nice if I kept it all in one location or even just one note, but I don't do that. I put it on whatever note is open. So like it could be my groceries and also like important story notes that I just had with an editor. And like then when it comes time to go back to those story notes, I have to figure out what was I doing at that time that I can find those notes again. So it's not a good system. But
it's
what
your
I
system?
it's my system, but also what I've found that like my guiding principle is always what is the emotion. Like, I always have to find what my way in on the story is, and all of that's in my head because I empathize all day. Like, I'm just an empathy machine all the time, and I'm just feeling things all the time, and so, uh, as much as I try to write things down so I don't forget, it's less about the data that I'm writing down and more of what I'm writing it down to remember the feeling, because
Oh,
then I hold that feeling in whatever it is that I'm doing.
wow. Okay. So I did ask Ryan this question. I asked this from every creator.
Okay.
So Carla Barberry's routine is he gets up, he has coffee, watches a talk show with his wife, and he
Mhm.
draws first, of course, and then he submits his art to the publishers. It's like,
Okay.
"Hey, this is my drawing for today," and then he waits because the time difference. So he goes to the gym, works out. If he doesn't hear back from them, then he'll start drawing because he knows, okay, they didn't give me any notes to change anything. They
Right,
like what I
right.
have. I'm just gonna start drawing. Um, so for writers, and it's funny that you're friends with Ryan. We talk about how Hollywood makes it seem like writers will go and rent this cottage over here and they're going to go for the weekend and write, which, and Ryan goes, yeah, that's all bullshit. uh
Yeah,
and
100%.
yeah, and he's like, and I'm asking him his routine, and he's like, well, he's like, I don't get up, I have to check who got drafted, who got traded, and blah blah blah. And then
Yeah.
I'll go get coffee at this one coffee shop and I do this. So your routine, how is
Mhm.
your routine for writing?
Um, Varied. Uh, it's always varied depending on, like, the projects. I think I'm constantly trying to come up with what my routine is. Um, and it sort of varies once again if I'm in London or LA,
Wow.
um, because I, in one space, have my emotional support spouse, and in another space, don't. So, because we're working on getting him a visa at the moment. So,
Oh, nice.
when I'm in LA, um, I have to, like, be much better about taking care of myself. So I'm very much more likely to roll into work immediately as soon as I wake up, and I'm trying to, like, pull back on that a bit. It's really hard not to do though, because I'll get up and I'll be like, "Well, I guess I should start the day." Especially because 'cause I've been working on a project with a company in, a production company in India at the moment, and they are 12 and a half hours ahead of me, and so I'll wake up to, like, 3 or 4 emails, and I'll be like, "Okay, well, I guess I gotta get started on that before they go to bed because now it's 7 PM their time." Um, so I try very hard not to do that. I generally I will have a cup of tea because I have become quite British and militant on needing tea. It's very specific. I have very specific needs on my tea.
Nice.
And then when I do finally get started, if I'm in LA, if I'm immediately get started, or if I am in London, I might watch, like, if it's a Monday, I'll probably watch similarly like a talk show if it's John Oliver or something like that. Um, then when I finally sit down, I do my emails first. I try and get all my emails done. I am horrible at text messages. Horrible. Horrible, horrible at text messages. That's the one area where I'm like, "This will never," because there always feels like more that needs to be done to text messages that I just am like, "I don't have time to do that." It's not. I don't know what's wrong with my brain that that is the way that it is, but, um, I need my email. I need to make sure that, like, I have responded to everything that I have respond or needed to respond to or can respond to. So, I do my emails first, and then I have a rolling, this has been working, I really appreciate it. I have a rolling, Google Docs document that has all of my, um, deadlines, basically.
Oh,
So,
nice.
I sort of can plan out, so I'm working right now on, like, let's say conservatively 5 projects.
Wow.
No, more than that, doesn't matter. Conservatively 5 projects.
How do
Um,
you do that?
this Google document, the only way. Um, I very much cannot work on one thing at a time. My brain has never worked this way. I have always needed to have multiple things going.
Wow.
I, uh, I tend to be working on an animation thing, a comics thing, and a script thing all in one day, and I'll do, like, 2 hours for each usually.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so that is my happy spot, is when I can get, like, those 3 things in. Um, and so I'll have, like, I'll sort of check, and I'm tied to that, and I'm tied to, I have a Google spreadsheet where I log my hours, um, which has been amazing. I've started doing that this year. I started doing it actually last September and have really loved doing it because
Nice.
it helps. Sometimes what I have found is that I have a really incorrect understanding of how long something will take me. And so I know within a relative span that it'll take me around this long, even if it's sporadic throughout. Like I'm not going to do it all in one fell swoop, but like this script will take me about this amount of pages for this particular script will take me a comic script will take me about like okay, this will take me 12 hours. So I make sure that like I have that broken down before it's due on like September 1st. Um and that will always change. This is the other side of it, is that like that never stays the way that I have it planned out. Especially in LA, schedules move all the time. Like I said, I had lunch or dinner with Ryan, but sometimes that doesn't happen, or like Ryan has to call, like my coffee has to call, or like I might have some spare time, or that's the only time that this person can meet, and so it's just moving that schedule around. So I have everything in my specific spaces so that I know how to juggle all of the plates basically. Um, so that nothing falls to the ground. That's not to say that things haven't fallen to the ground. They have, but we try our best.
That is true.
Yeah.
So the other question I ask for writers and artists is for the upcoming generation
Mhm.
and somebody who has that passion for writing
Mhm.
and doesn't know where to start.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for someone who wants to do it but doesn't know how to start?
Make your own. Make your own stuff. You just start doing it, because if you are like me, I think that is a caveat. I think every creative is very different, so it's really difficult to say like this is what everyone should be doing. Um, I have a caveat to that. There is one thing I think everyone should be doing, but the caveat before that is my brain, I needed to learn how to do things before I got into those spaces. So like I was taking classes on writing comics before I wrote comics. And making my own. Like I hired an artist and I figured out how to like do the notes and things before I actually had the opportunity to write comics. I made my own audio drama on my own because I had to figure it out. And I that is how my brain works, and that's an okay thing. I think for some people, their brain doesn't work that way. Totally fair. Um, but I do genuinely think that like learning how to wear those hats and do those things will really benefit you, even if it's not perfect, because it's not going to be perfect. You're gonna look back on that and be like extremely cringe. But you now know so much more. It's such a crash course. I'm very much a, like, throw myself into the deep end kind of a person, and there is a lot of benefit, I think, to that, as a method. Once again, it doesn't work for everybody, but I do genuinely think if you can try, do it. The thing that I do think works for everyone, is community. Find your people. No one makes art in a vacuum. Um, I am very I don't think I believe in auteurs. I don't I even like I love Wes Anderson movies. I think Wes Anderson movies are very fun. Wes Anderson is as good as his cinematographer, his actors, all of the pieces that build that movie. Um, you will not find one person that is the only person that tells that story. Even novelists, Stephen King. Stephen King needs his agent. Stephen King needs his editor. Stephen King knows that like there are people that are assets to his assistant, like are assets to helping you be creative and create these things. We do not live in a void. We do not live in a vacuum. The only way to make things is with each other, and to fight anything that stops us from it, to fight anything that starts us to like at each other. Like there is no reason for us to badmouth or bad talk or bad whatever anybody in this business. It is hard enough to make art. We absolutely do not exist in a space where we can like nitpick at other people. Absolutely not.
No, I agree with you 100% on that. It's the truth. I mean, Steve Jobs would not have created Apple without the people behind it making the things, making the iPads, the iPods.
100%.
So it's a teamwork effort, and
Always,
just like
always.
charm, the power of three.
Exactly. Always. Yeah, I think sometimes we really fall into the dream or the lie of individualism when it comes to creating things. We all wanna be important, we all wanna be famous. Sure, I admit to that. Who doesn't? Like, that sounds like it would generally make some things in my life easier. It will make some things harder, but sure, I can absolutely admit that it would probably make other things a little bit easier. Um, who cares? That's not how art is made, and, like, that's not real. It only actually serves the people in power and not artists. So,
Because, and I tell this to every an interview I talk about, and everyone I talk to. Without the writers and these artists and their imaginations, they are the backbone behind the industry in general. Hollywood,
yes.
comics, novels.
Yeah.
Without their imagination and their creativity, we wouldn't have these number one best-selling novels, you
No,
know, movies, top 100,
absolutely. Yeah.
s-
It so many people are involved in making these things, and so we like the idea that it's one person. It helps sell a story if it's one person. It makes us feel special if it's one person, because maybe then we could be special too. But we already are special.
yeah.
Our specialness is not created because we are the only special to special. We are special because other people also value us, because of the community that we have, because of the love that we have for each other. That is how we are special.
No, I agree with you. Like you mentioned about being the youth pastor and stuff like that. The same thing.
Yeah.
I believe the same thing that God has put his here for a reason. We're a piece of a
Mhm.
puzzle
Yeah.
to make this puzzle come together.
Yeah.
Without us as that one piece, that
Yeah.
puzzle would be incomplete. Uh,
Absolutely.
and
1000%.
and that's how I feel. And I feel like when we were talking when we first the interview started, I felt I was on the same page with you, and I was like, I like the way she thinks. I like where her head is.
Thank you.
Um, and you mentioned at the beginning of the interview that you are working on something new,
I
and you
am,
wanted to talk
yes.
about this. Can you tell us about this?
You. I have a comic coming out, my first creator-owned, so I'm really excited and terrified, because I'm so used to working in other people's IPs, and this is my IP that I'm making, so I'm very proud of it, I'm very excited about it. It's called Mary Sue, it's coming from Boom.
Oh,
It's,
nice.
5 issues about a teenage girl who writes fanfic for her favorite fake TV show, and, when she gets bullied, her Mary Sue comes to life, and
Oh, wow.
creates a little bit of chaos. But it's my love letter to fandom. I grew up in fandom spaces and I have worked on both sides of the fandom divide, and I find that it is one of the most beautiful spaces of community. It is I have always been struck by how fandom it crosses cultures, it crosses languages, it crosses all of these ages. Like, I have always been struck by how, like, I made friends with people who were younger than me and much older than me and lived very different lives than me, but yet we all are drawn together by these stories. And so this is a very, like, very much a love letter to that, very much a love letter to, like, how that's how we find our identity. Um, there's so much ire towards Mary Sue's, which I think is unfounded. I think Mary Sue's are just, uh, a really wonderful, beautiful way for us, especially when we are younger, to figure ourselves out and to work through certain aspects of who we want to be or who we wish we were, who we wish other people were, and to play that out, in a very magical realism way. So I'm bringing cringe back, and I think that we should all embrace it. So
Nice. Do we have a release date?
October 1st is when it is going to be in stores. And yeah, 5 issues. It's me and Lisa Sturl, who her art is, I mean, astoundingly good. I've already seen it. I'm so like hungry for it. Like, I'm so excited about it. It very much is pulling from uh there's a Lindsay Lohan, Tyra Banks movie called Life Size that is about a
Oh,
Barbie come
yeah.
to life.
I remember that one. Yeah.
So very much pulling from that, pulling from the Barbie movie, also pulling from the Josie and the Pussycats movie. Josie and the Pussycats is the best movie ever. Um, the vibes of it feel very like 2000s nostalgia. Um, and even though it is technically set now, and that is mostly because a lot of interesting fandom history is difficult to talk about in what age that was or like what year that was. So I was like, okay, well, we're setting it now, but it's really very much a like nostalgic. Like there's some strong millennial, strong 2000s vibes.
Nice. Well, it all comes around. 2084. I mean, right now with Dynamite as well is killing it as well. They're doing Thundercats. They're doing Silver
Yeah,
Hawks. The nostalgia's there. If they
yeah,
make it for this generation, they're gonna come to it. And
yeah.
if it's done correctly with passion and heart,
Hmm.
and great
Hmm.
artists as well, people are gonna pick it up and read it.
Absolutely.
Declan is doing Thundercats and Drew Moss, and it takes me back to a kid and getting off of school, watching Thundercats.
Yeah,
But of course we wait a month to read it, but it's just waiting for that next episode to see what's going to
yeah,
happen.
yeah.
I'm a 49-year-old. I look forward to going to a comic shop to get it.
Yeah, we all want to experience that, and I think also like this to me is very much um pulling from that space for a lot of young women especially, but also like for the next generation as well. Like I think that we don't have a lot of stories for the next generation. Like I'm constantly thinking about like what is this generation going to be nostalgic for in 20 years? Because it's not always going to be the things that our parents like, right? Like I like some things my parents like comics or things. My mom really loved Sound of Music, and I think it's fun. I'm not gonna watch that all the time, but I think
Yeah.
it's fine. Do you know, it's those things of like, if we are investing in the next generation as well, this will continue. The love of this will continue, and this will be a really enjoyable experience continuously and for the rest of time. So
So I have to ask, since you brought up Josie and the Pussycat Dolls,
yes.
if just throwing this out there, I always ask this question because I had asked Kelly Thompson, is there
Hmm.
something out there that you would want to IP that you would like to write for?
Sure.
And on her interview, she stated, she was like, well, she's like, I can't do the Crow, but I'm a Buffy fan. I
Sure.
have an idea. Reach out to me, whoever's out there.
Yeah.
Now she is writing for Buffy, that's coming out,
Yay.
Buffy and Angel. What IP would you want to work with that if someone were to reach out to you, that you could write for comic form?
It's a really good question, and I I love it a lot. The thing though that is that like there are a number of them, but they're weird because I grew up with a really weird childhood and it's very specific. There are 2 IPs that I love and I'm desperate to write more for or write anything for. One is The Scarlet Pimpernel. Are you familiar? Are you
Yeah,
aware?
I'm familiar with that one. Yes.
Love The Scarlet Pimpernel. Would love to write any sort of modern or historic Scarlet Pimpernel because I love the Scarlet Pimpernel so much. Um, Or, and this is a crazy pull, um, there was something called The Scarecrow of Romney Marsh.
Why does that sound familiar?
So it was why you might know of it is it was made into a Disney like, one of those TV movies on Disney
That's why. Okay. Okay.
that
That's why
was
it sounds familiar.
legitimately terrifying. It was I remember watching it going because I think it was made in, like, the '80s maybe? '70s or
Yes.
'80s?
Okay. Now it's coming back to me.
Mhm.
Yes. 80s. Yes.
I loved it. It was about a pastor who, moonlights essentially as a, rum runner and is very much about, like, protecting the community by doing these, like I love a hero that, like, very Batman, very, like, I see that the systems are not working, so I will break these systems. I will fight against them. I will during the day, you will think that I am working alongside you. Psych, I am working against you.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I remember now. Wow. No, back then, Disney was making, movies they were showing on Sunday nights,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was, one of the Sunday night movies, yeah.
okay, yes. Oh, man, that's so crazy.
It's a weird pull. It's arguably a really weird pull, but also I think a lot of people remember it. It's very I said it at a panel in Britain, and, like, 3 people on the panel who, were also very British were like, wait, yes!" And I was like, "Good, cool, 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 cool." My people.
Oh, that is so cool. No, I was thinking too. I mean, okay, because I had Fernando Reese on, who's worked on Archie.
Nice, yes.
Yeah, so I was thinking, man, that would be cool if you were to write a Josie and the Pussycat
So I
Dolls.
knew where you were leading me. I would love a Josie and the Pussycats movie. Josie and the Pussycats anything. My pitch for Josie and the Pussycats though would be either a continuation of the movie, which I think is honestly perfect. There are no notes. It's a perfect movie, or some sort of like detective, like undercover detective type of thing. In a very like, can you imagine Josie and the Pussycats meets K-pop Demon Hunters? Like that is my dream. That is what I would want.
That is so crazy. Okay, since you're bringing that up, Kevin Smith did a continuation where Archie goes to Clerks, and he
Oh, yeah,
works. Yes, it's just a one shot,
yeah.
which is so funny because Rosario Dawson plays Josie and the Pussycats.
Mhm,
Rosario Dawson does Clerk movies,
mhm.
and and then we get Josie and Pussycat Dolls in the comic as well. And I was like, I told Fernando, I was like, dude, did you? He's like, I did not know that. I'm like, yes, it's
Oh!
all in one. I'm like, dude,
So good.
yeah. I'm supposed to get it back on because we couldn't talk spoilers then because it was
Right,
before the
right,
comic
right.
drop. But the Easter eggs, like some of the drawings he was posting, I was already popping the Easter eggs already, and I was telling him like, dude, you have so and so in here. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah. I go,
That's
it's just
funny.
yes, and so it was, and that comic was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But no, that's the reason I was asking because I think with you, with the passion you have in certain things, I think you would do a great story for Josie and the Pussycat Dolls.
Thank you.
Just because the way you write, that's why I was gonna say.
I'm always happy to write for anybody that wants me to write for something. Like, I very much enjoy the challenge of someone coming to me and going, "We need this," or "We want this," and for me to then go, "Cool, what's my version of that?" I remember Scott Snyder talking about when he did Batman and, like, the advice that he had gotten and he gives and whatever of the, like, you you have to think of the life and death of your version of this character, and I think that that is so true of any IP that anybody comes into, is you have to, like, recognize that, like, you are writing your own thing, and, like, hopefully, yes, people will bring in continuity, maybe they don't, who knows, but, like, I recognize that for this moment in time, this is my character, this is the life and death, I this is how I am working within it and within that space, and so I think, uh, I enjoy that, like, the challenge of any character being brought and being like, "What would you do with this?" "Cool. Absolutely. Let's go."
That is freaking awesome. Megan, I want to thank you again for coming on. Before we leave, where can fans follow you if they want to keep up on your, like, say, once you have the first artwork you can tease on the comic, where can they follow you for that?
Absolutely. I am Meg Fitz 89 MEGFITZ 89 everywhere, on every platform, on, Blue Sky, Instagram. I still have a Twitter account, but I only really post about work stuff, and then I'd, like, leave it. I don't really go very much on it, but, yeah, any sort of social, I'm there. Tumblr, any of it. I'm there
Sweet.
on I'm all across the way.
Well, I can't wait to get my hands on it. I'm gonna go to guys. Go to your school. Go to your comic book shop. Add it to your subscription if you want to pick this up. Because I'm gonna add it so I can review it once it drops.
Thanks,
So
please do.
yes, and that's like I said. That's why I'm doing this because we have independent writers and that are wanting to get their stuff out there instead of
Yeah,
yes, they're doing their job and getting paid, but they also want to give their creative ideas and put their stuff onto paper, like
it's definitely
Ryan.
yes, Ryan, yeah. Ryan knows it very well. I
Yes.
I think that that is something for up and coming writers. I know that we moved away from that and we're about to close down, but I do think that's something for up and coming writers to know is that like currently the job also includes marketing. Um, it doesn't matter if you want to do it or not. If you're like, that's not what I went to school for, cool. Doesn't matter. That's part of the job now as well. Will it be forever? Who knows? Don't know. But for right now, part of it is just like learning how to get your stuff out there and recognizing that like recognizing who the perfect person to hold the book in their hands is.
Yeah, exactly. The younger generation needs to get their hands on comics, come back,
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
in, support, your local mom and pop comic shops
Yeah. Absolutely.
because, even the bookstores, the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I feel we get too reliant on technology.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to continue to do. I'm a hard copy person. And I know there's some people who do digital books and digital comics. Yeah.
I I will say with digital comics, there is an accessibility that I appreciate to digital comics. And also as a person who goes between continents a lot,
Oh yeah.
I appreciate having my comics accessible, but I always will buy the comics that like I really love. But I do recognize that like I always say, and this was true. I remember saying this to Supernatural. This is one of the reasons why I got canceled one of the many times. But I still stand by it. For Supernatural, I was always like, watch the first 2 seasons on in the background. Like, if you feel like there's too much to watch, if there's too many seasons of too many episodes, turn it on and like start to clean, start to do your dishes, start to do whatever. You will have a relationship. By the end of season 2, you will be in a sobbing mess and you won't really know what happened. And you'll have to go back and watch all of it anyway. But I'm so much of the idea that like we just need to get people in. Whatever gets people to like come in and recognize that like this is for you. This is absolutely for you. This is great. Because then yeah, absolutely we'll 100% get people to go, "Oh wait, no, I do want this and I am going to pick up this copy." And I'm like, "Yes, I knew you would."
Well, like you said, Supernatural, one of the episodes that really, and my wife looked at me like, "What?" is when they made his car Knight Rider ish.
Mhm.
I
Robbie
was,
Kingston.
yeah, I was like, "What?" And she looked at me. She's like, "What?" And I'm like, "That is my show growing
Yeah,
up in the
yeah.
'80s." And then all these little things, and I was just like, "Damn it!" I'm like, "Now you got me hooked."
Yeah, man.
So went back to the beginning, started watching it. But
That's it.
yes,
Exactly. Like it's about getting people in and knowing that like there is space for them here.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Countdown. Thanks again for joining us. This is fun when we get to talk to writers and we get to hear their stories and talk about their great work. Um, go follow her. I will put the links below once it drops. Um, stay tuned. We've got a lot more interviews that are coming that you are going to be excited for. Um, and just stay tuned and follow. Thanks.